Twin Bill, where you can get your fill of hosts Jason and Marcus talking about movies and stuff. You know you never can get enough. A twin is two people who are related. Twin Bill. This season is Razzie Mania. Hello, America, and welcome to Twin Bill, the podcast where the twins talk about the movie that's on the bill. How are you doing, Marcus?
Good. It's a fun time for movies. The Oscars are this Sunday.
Oh yeah. So speaking of Oscars, because you get to watch movies to watch the Oscars, tell people what you watched this week.
Been a busy week as I tried to get through everything before the actual ceremony. I watched the second to last Best Picture nominee I needed to watch, which was Secret Agent. Very good drama thriller in Brazil. One of the two foreign language films nominated this year. And then I watched not a Best Picture because that is nominated for Best Foreign Language Film too. Uh, I did watch the foreign language nominee, which is also nominated for screenplay, which is it was just an accident, which is the French submission, but it's set in Iran and in Arabic about people who were tortured, a group of people tortured and kidnap and plan on torturing and killing a guy. I think it was a guy who tortured them, but they're not sure. Uh, it's kind of the conflict of are they willing to go as far as he did and kill him type, well, are they willing to kill him type of thing. Also very good. And then my plan is to watch Sentimental Value, the last Best Picture nominee I haven't seen before the ceremony. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what have you been watching?
So I did not watch any Oscar caliber films. Briefly mention I watched because it's not good, it's not worthwhile at all, but it's called Forbidden World. It's one of Roger Corman's at least two attempts to make a Alien knockoff, and it's like competently made, but it's pretty boring. And the alien looks like I scared like a 90s kids show version of the alien because his head is like three times bigger. It just looks weird. And then the movie I actually want to talk about, I watched Slumber Party Massacre 2. It's Slumber Party Massacre is very interesting rated, underrepresented franchise because it's a female directed franchise.
Hmm.
So I feel like there's a lot more focus on, because in both movies there's a man with a drill shoving the drill through women. So I feel like it's a lot more of a literal interpretation of the male gaze implied by a slasher movie. And oh yeah, and then the second movie's not as good because the first movie, the whole point is it turns out that the killer is just a guy with a drill. The second one, they tried to cash in on the Nightmare on Elm Street vibes by
Uh-huh.
having a killer who could kind of like do things that don't make sense. And instead of Freddy Krueger, who's like cool and has one-liners, they made him this slumber party guy, a 50s style singer with a drill guitar. It got really tiresome because it's not like you're gonna have great music in a forgotten 80s movie. And the movie stars Crystal Bernard, who played the coffee bartender, or whatever you call it, on Wings. So there you go. So let's talk about what's going on this week. We got yeah, that's right. The my favorite tagline ever, Master of the Macabre, Brian De Palma invites you to watch Dress to Kill. Before we get to that, a business from last week because I forgot to mention it. I think we both agree that Windows is probably the best Golden Raspberry movie we watched so far.
I put Xanadu slightly above it, but it's very good.
Okay, fair enough. And then I just wanted, and then but before we get, we'll get right into the movie right now. But I wanted to mention because I don't think I said it last week. We watched all of the worst picture nominees. Woo, woo.
And
So
I
now
feel
we're
so
in
much
the
better for it. You could sense by Susan voice I'm being sarcastic.
yeah, but now we're gonna watch arguably probably more obscure movie, whatever. But anyway, this is the we're on the worst director list. And speaking of bad directors, Brian De Palma. Probably a controversial statement, but okay. Well,
He's hit or miss. He directed the first Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. I really like that movie.
I thought the third on were more fun and less cluttered,
True.
but
I really love that franchise. So
yeah. So let's break it down. Let's break it down. The but Dress to Kill. So like we said, it's mentioned directed by Brian De Palma. For any listeners slash viewers who are not familiar, um, he is in a I've heard described as both the movie brat generation and the new Hollywood. Basically, the group of directors who were the first directors to able to go to film school and absorb the entirety of cinema as students, and then made their big movies. So De Palma, but more famously, Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola as well. I wanted to briefly mention because we can't get through every Brian De Palma movie that's famous, but he made a movie in the early '70s called Hi Mom. It's like one of his first movies. It's an Alan Ashby style satire about terrorists who are also avant-garde artists. It's a comedy with Robert De Niro in it. It's very good. I recommend it. And then, what's your favorite not Dress to Kill Brian De Palma movie, Marcus? Aside from Mission Impossible, I guess, since you mentioned it, but whatever.
no, it's not Mission Impossible. It's his most traditional film probably ever. I mean, I have no interest in doing a true complete watch of all of his films, but probably is, and it was the Academy viewed it that way too, was The Untouchables. Even though I'm
Oh yeah,
sometimes averse to Kevin Costner, I think that was a very well executed, fun watch, fun gangster movie.
that was good. I put Scarface above that movie just because Scarface is more eccentric and Al Pacino is a good
I
actor.
do like Scarface, but it's just so ridiculous in some ways good, some ways bad.
But I just like Al Pacino. I don't know. Al Pacino goes for it whenever he acts, so must watch. Yeah.
But for a little too much.
Yeah. And speaking of bad Al Pacino movies, I don't think you saw Carlito's Way. That movie's brutal to watch.
I do really
Like
like it, so kind of watch it at some point soon.
like a spoiler or anything, but yeah, I think it's a more boring version of what Scarface is. But yeah, yeah. And then he directed Carrie, which I'll have to watch at some point. I I, I have so many friends who like that movie. You know. And then as a tie-in to a running theme in this movie, I think I mentioned this movie twice now. He directed The Fury with Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, so we talk about like feels like every week for the past year.
So yes, just 2 years after this, 2 years before this movie. So The Fury was in the air.
And he also the last one is Phantom of the Paradise, which seems like a very Razzie
I was
type
just gonna
movie.
say because he wrote the screenplay too, so that's the written by category. And if there were their Golden Raspberries for 1974, Phantom of the Paradise would have been nominated or probably would have won. It's one of the most infamous musicals ever made. Yep. And then so it's produced by George Litto. He's a long time like a lot of people on this list. The Brian De Palma stan did like all of his movies, but most famously produced Blowout in addition to this movie. And then I have little trivia question for you. Uh, George Little produced the Bonnie and Clyde esque old timey bank robber film called Thieves Like Us, what famous director directed Thieves Like Us?
I've looked through Altman's filmography before, so I'm aware that Altman directed it.
Yep. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Okay. And then music by Mr. Pino Donaggio.
Boppity Boopy. Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you're getting a call from the Italian American Defense League or whatever
The
that
Christopher
mafia.
Columbus Appreciation Society or whatever it was on The Sopranos.
Well, in the real life, the Godfather got threatened by the Anti-Defamation League or whatever, yeah, which is run by mobsters. But anyway, yeah, it's a very bombastic, showy score for a very bombastic, showy movie. And on top of doing like every De Palma movie, Pino Donaggio scored Piranha. So you know he's good.
A bunch of Italian movies.
Yeah, Piranha was the only one that wasn't, it was the most interesting one that I saw, but you know. All right, let's get into the cast. We have Michael Caine as Dr. Robert Elliott. Back to back Bobs. After Bob from Windows.
Yeah, it's this old Michael Caine, and I would consider this young Michael Caine, although he's getting middle aged, like I guess at this point, are kind of I feel like are different people. But he has obnoxiousness to him when he's in his 40s and younger when he was acting.
Yeah. I mean, it fits the character that De Palma created, especially spoiler alert at the ending. But yeah, my character description for Dr. Robert Elliott is that he's a totally straight-laced, helpful psychiatrist with no hidden secrets at all. End of story. Yeah. He was in another movie in 1980, which we will get to very soon. That was nominated for a bunch of Razzies. And speaking of bad movies, 2 years before this, he was in Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go.
So here's the thing with water-based, horribly received sequels.
He loves to just jump right in. That's right. I I never read the script for Jaws 4, but I saw the house that it bought. Something like that.
I think I know better than Robert Shaw how to kill the shark.
Yeah, true story. And then so I have fun facts about the casting of this movie. Can you believe that Sean Connery signed up to play Dr. Robert Elliott, but only dropped out because of scheduling conflicts? Like, you got to understand, I want to have an operation to become a woman, but I get an erection and I have to kill.
I basically wore a woman's underwear and Zorro. Shh. Want to see that again, don't you?
Because Sean Connery did an interview famously with Barbara Walters in like the 80s or 90s where he's like, oh, I love to slap women to get them to shut up. And he's like, he wants to play a freaking transgender woman. Okay.
Great character, that guy.
And then we also have Angie Dickinson as weirdly horny housewife, Kate Miller. That's kind of rude, I guess. R.I.P.
Ooh, Angie Dickinson. What a woman. It's my Uncle Junior impersonation from The Sopranos.
If people don't know, in The Sopranos, Uncle Junior is an old man, so he's in the perfect age group for. I mean, she was until she's an attractive woman, so I'm not judging him, but yes,
Yes. Had you seen any Angie Dickinson for this movie?
yes, I saw Big Bad Mama, in which she plays. It's also Bonnie and Clyde-esque, where she's like it's like a female gang. William Shatner's in the movie, and she gets naked in that too, and actually naked. In this movie, it's a body double, but yeah. So
I saw her in a much more classic film. Well, whatever. Big Mouth is probably some defender
it's
or whatever,
good.
but
I mean, it's not classic, but it's good. Go ahead. Yes.
one of John Wayne's better received movies, Rio Bravo, with Ricky Nelson and Dean Martin.
I believe if that's not her first role, it's definitely her breakthrough role. It's like 59, I think. So yeah,
That's the year, yeah, and she does look very young in that. She's barely in it, although she's like she's one of the people who pays for the good guys to go get the bad guy cowboy or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I just want to briefly mention Angie Dickinson's most famous for playing Policewoman on the TV show Policewoman, about a woman who wasn't a police woman, but then becomes one, and it's awkward, and it's yeah. And that ended 2 years before this movie came out. And then I have a really weird story about the casting of this character because it's all over the place. Brian De Palma's first choice was Liv Ullmann, who I'm sure you're at least somewhat familiar with. She was in a lot of
I know the name.
she was in a ton of movies with Bergman, like the one where she,
Oh,
oh, yeah, they're really good movies, obviously, because Bergman's the best.
I haven't seen that many Bergmans.
Liv Ullmann was like, no, this movie's super violent. I'm not gonna do it. And then you go from Liv Ullmann, who, if you Google her, she's a very tall Scandinavian woman, model beauty or whatever.
About Angie Dickinson's age, I would imagine too, yeah.
But then you go from that, the model, then he has Jill Clayburgh, who's not super famous, but she was in a movie about the Carol Lombard and Clark Gable. She played the mom in Bridesmaids, the mom to Kristen Wiig. Anyway, she's short, like a nice looking woman, I guess, but not like model looks. So just kind of seems like the Palma was all over the place of like what this woman's supposed to look like. All three actresses are very distinctly different. You're looking up Jill Clayburgh.
So Nancy Allen got the role.
No, I'm talking about. This is all for Kate Miller, the Angie
Oh,
Dickinson
still
one.
on Angie. Okay.
I'm done now though. Jill Clayburgh also had scheduling conflicts, by the way. Apparently, Brian De Palma has a tight schedule. I don't know. No one can meet his movies. Uh, and then no, yeah, Nancy Allen as Liz Blake. I didn't know her last name when I watched the movie, but the very professional looking hooker who wears a coat and tie to the job. We'll talk about more of that later. But this was 7 years before RoboCop, and 1941 was the year before, which is a very interesting trajectory. And then
Yeah.
we have hey, why don't you go be in that movie? Just to Kill. We got Keith Gordon as Peter Miller, Kate's son, and kid detective. More bonus trivia. I have to be vague in the way I phrase this question, so apologies. But in what award-winning movie, maybe Jason Luna's favorite movie of all time, definitely his favorite musical, did Keith Gordon play the younger version of a character that is heavily based on its director?
He's in all that jazz.
Yep, brief scenes as young guy. So we also have Dennis Franz as Captain Marino, the head of the investigation, and a really mean, sarcastic, quasi corrupt cop.
Completely different than his character in NYPD Blue.
For those keeping track at home, that's 13 years before NYPD Blue, and he apparently was in Popeye. Must have been a small
It's been a
ensemble.
long time since when Popeye.
I remember Popeye pretty well, but I don't remember him. All right, time for a bonus game for a Brian De Palma movie. Can you name that character actor? If you remember anything, you win. First question. Did you recognize the actor who played Dr. Levy, aka the normal psychiatrist who gives the speech from Psycho at the end of the movie?
The guy I thought he may not be. I don't know. I think it's spelled differently. It's probably not. I don't think so. I thought it was Juliana Margulies' dad, Paul Margulies, who plays the mayor of New York in the Ghostbusters first two Ghostbuster movies.
Yes. He manages to not believe the Ghostbusters are telling the truth in two different movies. Yes, his name is David Margulies, spelled the same, but yeah, I'm not sure about the relation, but yeah. And then a hard one. Did you recognize anyone slightly recognizable in the background of the psychiatric hospital at the end of the movie? Yeah.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, there was a tall patient in the psych hospital who was played by Mark Margolis, who would be much more famous as an old man playing Hector Salamanca, the grumpy Mexican drug lord in both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
He basically, when he's lost his, when he's in the wheelchair, yeah, I think it kind of acts like a mental patient a little bit.
Yeah. All right, let's talk some more about this movie. Yeah, let's talk about the concept of the movie, which is basically the ad campaign. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the title. Like, it's kind of clever in hindsight, I guess, because it's like Angie Dickinson and Nancy Allen both have particular outfits and taking their outfits off, and obviously the killer puts on clothes to murder and hide their identity. So it's like it fits.
Oh, the title.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of be undressed to kill, but that's kind of a dumb title. Because it's God, the we're gonna get into it, but the Angie Dickinson part feels like
Yeah.
a Emmanuel starring Andy Dickinson, her sexual awakening.
I'm sure Brian De Palma saw Emmanuel many times.
eh, but so because the title makes it sound like, oh, it's a dark comedy about a runway model who's killing people to move up in the
Right.
high-end fashion trade or something. But it's about the kind of the it kind of spells it out with the big twist, how sex and violence intertwine, I guess.
Yeah. I think in hindsight, the title kind of like Windows last week, a little to an extent, in a sense that the title kind of falls to the wayside a little bit. It's not the most memorable title because it's so basic, but it's not bad.
You have to explain what it's about, and I don't, movie shouldn't make it so obvious what it's about either, I guess. But it's not. It's a big explainer. No one would correctly guess what Dress to Kill is about just on the title.
Well, this movie kind of loves expository dialogue, but we'll talk more about that in a second.
A little
And then
bit, yeah.
poster's okay. You can't really see the goods of the poster with my head in the way, but it's a
If you
woman
look too
putting up.
close, maybe we talked before we went on about if you look closely, like, oh, the killer's a guy with a fedora or whatever type of hat he's wearing, and that's not the case in the movie at all.
Yeah, but I mean, it is true that a big appeal to the movie and the Hitchcock-esque twist is that you can't see who the killer actually is. So the more layers of obscuration that De Palma can put in the poster, it makes sense on a basic transactional level.
Yeah, it's probably an intentional homage to Psycho with the poster with the color palette of the
Well, I mean,
woman and
make,
taking off her
make,
pantyhose and the guy creeping through the door.
he literally made a movie about a killer who's confused about being a woman. So I think he was definitely thinking about Psycho when he wrote this movie.
Yeah.
We'll get more into that too because me no like yeah, the poster's fine. It just looks generic. It looks like something could be an advertisement for clothing or something with the woman pulling the stocking up. And then the tagline, there's two taglines. So the official one is the latest fashion and murder, which is even more explicitly what you said, which is like it sounds like it should be set in Italy and be about a model killing people, but there's no
Or
fashion in this movie aside from an ugly trench coat.
Angie Dickinson's pretty chic in her little white dress she wears to the museum, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not definitely not a fashion movie. And I guess you kind of are getting into the transgender part, the transgender killer dresses like a woman. Woman. So yeah. Um, so it's, and that she's trying to be more fashionable like a woman instead of being the man that
But
biologically he
I
is.
want to bust out my fashion police card here and be like, that was the. I know. I know. I know. Michael Caine has spoiler. Michael Caine has to hide his body and stuff, but it's just like a big flat black trench coat and giant sunglasses. It's like it's not a sexy or like couture look at all.
No, yeah, you don't get into why they, I guess that's the proper pronoun,
In
chose
the
to dress
movie,
that way.
yeah, yeah,
It is
yeah.
weird. With the sunglasses too.
To hide the identity, but yeah, that's more logical than like clever or good looking. And then I know I joked about it in the opening, but uh, what did you think of the tagline, the full tagline on the poster, where it's like Brian De Palma, the master of suspense, the master of the macabre, invites you to his newest thriller, Dressed to Kill.
I mean, I feel like macabre's a stretch. I guess it's kind of,
I mean, they're going off of Carrie, which
and
is
the
very
Fury, I guess.
yeah, Carrie's weird and stuff.
The Fury too, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know how popular that was. I didn't hear. I mean, that didn't have any carrying power in the mainstream because that was the Fury came out in 78. We were born in 86, so in the 90s and into the 2000s, I'd never heard of the Fury.
never heard Dressed to Kill either. It's like a whole mishmash of vague memories of De Palma's ladies movies from the 80s, but it's like yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably just based off Carrie. So, Master of the Macabre, one movie, please. Uh, not George Miller, George Romero, much more, someone like that has much more claim to that
I mean,
title.
even Hitchcock would be fair. I know it's not super macabre, but they're at death, and he did like 50 movies. It's like
Well, Hitchcock had retired by this point.
pretty close. It's like mid 70s or something. Yeah,
Family
uh,
Plot was 76, I believe. That was his last one.
yeah. And then the trailer was basically just the movie for 2 minutes. I thought they showed
I
way too much.
hate those old-timey trailers where, because I've actually been to, I forget the term, where you go to the cinema to watch uh, old movies, and they'll show trailers before of of movies of the era. And it's such a spoiler to watch those trailers.
Yeah, it wasn't cut super like clever or anything. There was no like gimmick. It was fine.
It's basically the whole museum scene.
Yeah, which is kind of weird for a trailer if you're gonna sell how exciting the movie is, but that's kind of how the Palma rolls. He loves those slow, languid shots. So,
Although it's, yeah, well, it is just a scene for the movie for one thing. So to say it matches the tone of the movie is kind of
yeah, but I
easy.
guess I'm
But
saying you expect a trailer about a thriller nowadays to be like cut like not like here's the scene.
nope, they did not. That'd be interesting. I only watched a documentary on the history of trailers and what movies were first to start, because now trailers are all cutting at different shots of people. Like a movie like this are different shots of people looking scared, uh,
Yeah,
suspenseful, etc. Whenever
well,
that
yeah,
started, I'd, re- I'd watch that documentary.
mhm, I agree. Let's take a quick trivia break. The theme is pretty straightforward. The questions will either be about fashion or killing. All right. Your first question. What fashion designer, known for working with Cher, also designed a dress made from curtains from a Gone with the Wind sketch on the Carol Burnett show?
Oh boy, fashion designer is not my trivia expertise. Karl Lagerfeld.
Bob Mackie is the man's name.
Oh, very famous name. I don't know much about it, but I guess he's that.
Did like all the Academy Award dresses for Cher, very provocative. Uh, Next question. Who painted the Testament to Murdering Dudes in a Bathtub, also known as The Death of Marat?
Shoot. Death of Marat by,
It's a hard
should
one
know
because it's not,
this.
it's hard.
Honorate the Balzac, probably writer, whatever. Moving on.
There's no need for potty mouth on a podcast. All right. The answer is
Balls.
the answer is Jacques Louis David.
David. I was thinking something like Donatello popped in my head, but I knew it couldn't be Italian. But it was the D.
No.
He loved the D. No, no, moving on.
Uh, talk about the characters in this movie. Just a general concept or whatever. I thought they sort of fit as like vessels of the whodunit and the thriller element. Like, and I thought Liz and Peter were fine. Robert was annoying because he was kind of a clumsy cliche psychiatrist, and I felt the same way about Captain Marino. But and I liked the performance by sorry, Kate. Yeah, Kate, her very emotive acting. So it
I
was
don't know.
okay.
I hate all, and there's people who gave, and reading their reviews at the time, people give her credit for her acting. Well, like I said, I guess she's very emotive with her face. She doesn't, honestly, her part of the movie, I told you this offline that this movie felt like two movies, which I already alluded to. The first movie is the sexual awakening of Andy Dickinson. And then we already spoiled the movie. She gets killed. And then the second movie is Nancy Allen and Keith Gordon trying to figure out how to avenge Andy Dickinson's death by capturing the killer.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't you find? I don't know. I don't know. The plot is all over the place, but I thought the characters and the acting performances were adequate to good.
Yeah, I don't like it when on film reviews and film podcasts they talk about characters being believable. But I guess I should be giving her more credit for being believable. She's in a very unloving marriage with does he have a name?
He's barely in the
Barely
movie.
in the
It's so
movie.
weird. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, and so she acts like that. She's very upset about all of that. Um, so she's fine. Yeah, I shouldn't harp on her too much. There's plot issues more than acting issues with her, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And then try to get a little bit in here about
Na-
the
Nancy Allen. I was not thrilled to find out Nancy Allen was in this movie because she's probably my least favorite part of RoboCop. She's very, lack of a better term, cardboard with how she acts, kind of.
in RoboCop. Yeah, this movie I thought she was a lot more naturalistic ish.
I don't know. Wasn't very emotive with her dialogue sometimes that when she probably should have been more so, I think.
Yeah, I guess more like the line readings were good more than like it was amazing. But
I mean,
considering yeah,
step up the RoboCop where she's basically just, oh, RoboCop, you're amazing. It's been a while since I RoboCop. I'm probably simplifying her performance too much, but
yeah.
not much better than that.
And it was actually transitions pretty well into talking about the dialogue.
Speaking of dialogue, a notable thing in this movie is there are one character who definitely does not talk at all in the infamous, I don't know, unique, I guess I should say, museum scene where uh Angie Dickinson decides to give into her there's potential for adultery because how dissatisfied she is with her husband. So she chases a guy around a museum and then eventually they make out slash have a
Oral sex.
cunnilingus. It's hairstyle, we could say it.
It's the
In a
90s.
cab, and then they eventually have sex in a apartment slash hotel. The guy never talks through all of this. Did you think it was a little strange?
Yeah, it was needlessly confusing because they never really show her husband, and then they show this guy who kind of looks like her husband, and it seemed really clumsy. Like a normal movie, that guy would be important. I guess that was sort of the misdirect, is like, oh, this character does not matter to the plot. Never saw that coming. I don't know. Yeah.
And then speaking of the husband, um, he almost doesn't talk. He does. I caught at least one line of dialogue because after she gets murdered, uh, Peter, the son, goes to the police station to try to help answer questions, and then the dad comes, picks him up, and says, "You ready to go, Peter?" And then there might be this whole dialogue in the whole movie.
I remember that. Yeah, wait. Yeah.
There's also where I thought husband never talks, especially because it ends up being a dream sequence at the beginning. He doesn't talk in that either. When she's Angie Dickinson is essentially masturbating in the shower
Yeah.
and then murdered, but then it's a dream.
Hmm.
And then right after that, she has morning missionary with her husband. So there's a lot of sex in this movie.
Yeah. We're gonna get to the plot structure right now, so we do it all in the dialogue part, but yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's fine.
fine.
You're laying the groundwork, I guess. So yeah, the like you were saying, technically the first, because I remember this, technically the first shot of the movie is their empty bedroom, but the business of the opening scene is, like you said, we don't know what's dream at first. She's naked in the shower. Fun fact: uh, Brian De Palma hired a penthouse pet of the year to nakedly rub her bush in the shower. That is not, despite the fact that she's done a lot of nudity in her career. That is not policewoman in the shower.
Yeah.
And and then she's jerking it. I don't know what to say. I mean, you could argue she's bathing, but then it gets a little sensual. And then some mystery man pulls her out of the shower, which is a very cool shot. It kind of like, it's like there isn't a back there, and the guy pulled her through. Visually is a very cool shot. And then she wakes up and it's a dream, and she has sex with her husband. But so that's the opening image. And then I think this is the first movie we watched for this podcast that has a direct bait and switch to the question who the protagonist is, because obviously we're with Kate for a long time, or felt like a long time. She's a loving mom. She talks good with her son Peter. She goes to the museum, has sex in a car. She must be uncomfortable. And then but then she gets murdered.
Well, before that, it's another bait and switch because I thought they're going to address the fact that she finds out because she's trying to get her ring, or was it the watch? She's going through his. Oh, she's trying to find a post-it to write, "Thanks for the afternoon."
Good bang! Exclamation point! Exclamation point!
And she finds, it's crazy, paperwork saying that he has syphilis and gonorrhea.
Maybe it's better she died then. No.
Because I thought, yes, I thought there was the address. Oh God, I have. She's gonna go to the gynecologist to try to get uh antibiotics for gonorrhea.
Yeah, I forgot about that stuff, and probably because the movie summarily ignores all of that because she dead now. Uh,
Right, and then it this movie doesn't let you take a breath plot wise because then it's very quickly after.
it's the same scene. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say she almost leaves, but then she's like, "Oh crap! I left my wedding ring up in the room. I better go back up and get it." And then the door opens in the elevator, and there's a woman.
Yes, Liz is talking to her John, the only John she has in the formal John she has in the whole movie. I'm gonna talk about that part in a second. But and I guess you could argue De Palma may intertwine their lives enough to make the protagonist, which makes sense, I guess, because Liz goes out of her way to try to help um Kate. She accidentally grabs the murder weapon and she waits by the elevator until it can open. She talks to the cops afterwards. So she's like involved in the murder. So now she's the protagonist.
Yes. It's
So
very
that's
abrupt. It makes it feel like two movies because it doesn't flow
yeah.
well.
So this makes the next question weird. Next few questions weird actually, because it's like there's kind of two protagonists sort of butting for attention here. But what is the ordinary world of the characters? Uh the movie just does not care what the ordinary world or life before the events was. Kate is a well-to-do housewife who has a psychiatrist. That's about
She's
all we see.
Yes, she's sexually frustrated with her husband and she's concerned for her son because he's so obsessed with his science that he doesn't sleep. But they have a much better relationship and like each other.
Yeah.
So that's her world. Unhappy marriage and
Well, okay, yeah. This
son.
this this is my big I don't want to call it rant, it's more like thing I wrote down, but for Liz's character is her backstory is she's a call girl, prostitute, whatever you want to call it. And she has a John in that one scene and never again. And she is a prostitute who has no problems with being sexually assaulted by Johns. She has no problems with drug addiction. She has no financial dependence on another man. We never see a pimp in the whole movie. She's
She
barely
does
a
talk.
prostitute.
She does talk to her pimp. Doesn't You don't see her, but there's a phone conversation where she says, "Uh, I'm sorry I bailed on that guy." Um,
She's wearing with the guy she's with in the elevator scene, the murder scene we've been talking about a lot.
I misspoke. Sorry. Just to clarify, she's not. She doesn't bail on that guy. She desperately wants him to come back so he can be her alibi that she didn't kill Angie Dickinson.
Right. But she's with a John and she's wearing a tweed suit jacket and a tie and a blouse. This movie is not very good at depicting what prostitution is.
I think. Hold on a minute. We both saw Wolf of Wall Street, and Leonardo DiCaprio's character Max, I think. I can't remember the last name. Oh no, it's Jordan Belfort. Breaks down the types of prostitutes,
You're giving
and
this movie
that's
way too much credit. It's that segment of prostitution. I feel like Brian De Palma just forgot what the character was like.
but I'm just saying in Wolf of Wall Street because he says a high, medium, and low level prostitute. She's dressed like the high-end prostitute described in Wolf of Wall Street. So and Wolf of Wall Street's based on a true story.
I guess I don't buy it,
How
but it's
about
fine.
it?
Wouldn't be the first plot hole in this movie, but whatever. And then another thing the movie doesn't really care that much about is what does the character innately need that the movie's going to give them to improve their lives? Because the movie doesn't care. Because Kate, I guess she needs to like leave her husband or be with someone else or something, but they just don't address that because she's dead now. And
Right,
then with Liz, there's no issue whatsoever. The only issue she has is that she's being accused of murder.
right.
She does not dislike being a prostitute whatsoever. There's no pretty woman situation going on.
Yes, she explains that, and because I think Keith Gordon, who's very a sweet-natured character,
Like I say, he's kind of like a toddlerish because he's very clingy to maternal figures.
he's worried about her, and she has attitude like, "What are you worried about? Yeah, I take care of myself."
Yeah. Uh,
That was definitely how Nancy Allen approached the role. Is I'm gonna talk like this
like
because
I mean, I
I'm
guess
gonna
it's
be a call
fair.
girl.
It just speaks to my issues with the thriller genre in general. Is that I want Liz as a character to have something she can grow with, but all she really has to grow with is I don't want to go to jail for murder.
Correct.
I want, and that's De Palma's choice, and everyone liked it, so whatever.
That's why thrillers and horror movies are easier to make because you don't have to worry about character development and themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I have to watch. I have to still watch it. But yeah, okay.
You
Time for
chose to do
another
the Razzies.
time for another trivia break.
All right.
All right. In the movie Pulp Fiction, who kills Marvin and why does he kill him?
It's Vincent Vega, and it's on accident.
Yes, the gun has a freak accent. Fits the general theme of God,
Oh,
God making things happen randomly.
very reckless on. You don't point a gun at someone unless you're willing to, unless you're willing,
Right.
you want to shoot them.
Yes, but it does kind of fit because Jules is convinced later that it's the or earlier. It's earlier actually. Technically, in the movie, it's later. It's whatever. When the guy shoots the gun in the apartment and the bullets miss everyone,
Right.
like an act of God. So that you could argue that the Marvin thing was also somehow divine intervention. Yeah, yeah,
He's a heroin addict, though, so I don't know if he's in the right frame of mind to assess
yeah,
things accurately.
yeah. And then the next question: Academy Award-winning costume designer Edith Head is at least partially responsible for what for the inspiration of what superhero suit designer in Pixar's Incredibles universe?
That would be the wonderful Edna Mode.
Yes, darling.
Although I think doesn't what's his face, the director, claim that it's not Edna Mode, not Edith Head.
No, he looks like her, but I guess it could be a short women with glasses. Must be missing her glasses. Okay, so this is a really easy one to answer, I think. Uh, what movie event changes the protagonist's life slash sucks them into the story? Kate.
Murder?
Well, technically, Kate is literally sucked into the story. Hey-oh, in the cab, and then spoiler alert: Michael, according to the movie, Michael Caine saw her having sex in the cab and got a boner, and he's like, "But I'm gonna be a lady, so I gotta kill my boner by killing the lady."
My penis got hard, so I had no choice but to become a woman, and I'm not creative in terms of name, so I went from Robert to Bobby.
Liz is super direct. She was minding her own business and tried to help out policewoman in the Kate in the elevator, and then got busted. Yep.
Busted.
And then the hardest question in all these things for me is what is the fun and games of the movie? I think while you're watching the movie, the fun and games is sort of who is this murderer, and can Liz catch her before she goes to jail for the rest of her life? And
I actually enjoyed. It's kind of fun and games. I enjoyed the sciencey things that Peter uh
yeah,
was trying to employ to help capture the killer. It's of course Keith Gordon's character.
I think on a technical screenwriting level, that's like a side hustle to the Liz character. But yeah, it was interesting, almost too clever for a teenage boy to do. Yeah. And I mean, there's an implication with a movie like this, and because it's Brian De Palma, everyone knows he asks women to take their clothes off. That the fun and games is, ooh, is this gonna be sexy? And then the climax, uh, what's her face? Liz goes down to that nighty with her boob popping out. So that's also part of the fun and games, I guess. Yeah.
Just make me look attractive, Mr. Psychiatrist.
And then so the next question: what obstacle comes along midstream to take the protagonist's fun and games away from them? I mean, I think it's a pretty ham-handed scene because Captain Reno basically comes up to Liz and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I don't know if you're the murderer or not, but I need to catch the murderer today. Are you gonna go to jail tomorrow?" That's pretty
You
much
have
it.
48 hours. And then 48 hours later, if you're not back with it tomorrow, then I'm putting you in cuffs.
I mean, it makes basic sense because the police need to catch, but it just seems so convoluted that the cop would not weigh the evidence or Liz's innocence in that factor at all. And then what's the motivating action or event that pushes the movie into the climax of the movie? Hell, because it's a sex in this movie. Uh, so Liz is a client of Robert, so she knows that Robert is getting these threatening phone calls from someone who is also a client of Robert. So she needs to get the book with the names in it of Robert's clients. So her big move is, I think this is stupid. She goes in by herself, disrobes, with the idea that Michael Caine will start undressing to have sex, and then she'll have time to go back in the back office and read the book. There's so many things that could go wrong with that.
Well, yeah. Although we find out later that Dennis Franz isn't a complete, he's still a jerk, but he has a cop helping her on
Yeah, that's effectively the arguably the coolest action scene in the movie, and the climax of the movie is because that's one thing Brian Hall was technically skilled at directing on a like camera basics level, because he keeps doing these cuts where it's like you see Michael Caine and Liz, and then you see Liz in the back office, and then you see Michael Caine taking off his tie and getting all like horny or whatever. You see Peter Gordon, Peter, not Peter Gordon, Peter played by Gordon. God,
geez.
Peter staring like spying outside, and then you get a cut mixed in with all that of this stone-faced woman who looks like grumpy as hell. So you think maybe she's the killer or something. I don't know what she is. And then at the very end, when another dumb thing by Liz, she Stuart comes to the window and is like, behind you, Mike, there's a killer behind you with a knife or the razor blade or whatever. And then Liz is like, what are you saying? What?
They do establish that it's pouring rain and thundering, so that would obscure the audio, so I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Not fair enough. And then they get the cool shot where the woman shows up and just shoots through the window and doesn't kill, but wounds Michael Caine. And that was cool. That was a cool. If the movie was like that, be cool and stylish if you're gonna make a dumb action thriller. But and then yeah, the movie doesn't know how to end, so it's, because well, in a traditional movie, you'd be like, how is their world different from the beginning to the end? And the movie doesn't really seem to care that much, because in the beginning, Liz was a hooker who seemed happy to be a hooker, and now the case has been solved, and she's going to take a vacation with Peter at his house. So it's not like they resolved anything with the hooker part.
No, there's no I'm gonna change now because of this experience moment.
And they kind of cut out the not that there would have been, but they cut out what would have been the emotional ending with Liz to instead show the whole complicated ending they have to explain, because Michael Caine goes to psychiatric hospital. Mark Margolis is there like, in 30 years, I'm going to be in a good TV show. And then Michael Caine is in a, typical movie version of a psychiatric hospital, which was probably closer to the truth in the 80s, in that it's like disorganized and not nice to be in and all that. And Michael Caine murders his nurse, and no one seems to notice.
And there's no other supervising people around. It's just patients rooting him on.
And then he puts on the nurse's clothes, and then we cut to Liz in the bathroom at, I guess, was supposed to be Peter's house,
Yes.
getting ready for bed. And the nurse's shoe steps in the door, and it's like, oh, murder's gonna happen. And then it's all a dream. What?
So the movie begins and ends with a dream. In a
Yeah,
shower too, nonetheless.
that was a good transition, because I was gonna talk about the beginning and the ending. because yes, they match because they're both dreams,
in
but they
showers.
also don't. I guess you could argue they do match because they're different, but they're so different. Because it's Kate's dream about sex, and then we have Liz's dream, which is a which is super realistic about the plot. Kate's dream is a dream. It's like it's a wet dream, and there's the weird like impossible edit where the hand comes through the wall. Liz's dream, when I watched it looks like the movie. So I
Right.
think they match well. I didn't think those two shots matched. The beginning and the ending didn't match very well at all to me, but on a technical level, but
Well, it's intentionally more realistic at the end, so it's a swerve that
right. But do you think it's complemented by the opening? Is what I'm asking.
they're both in a shower and involve women in distress, I guess. So,
But
complimentary in that way, but yes, it's not an exact match.
it's not an emotional like resolution match or whatever.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the beginning, and then the ending is oh the bad guy won. Oh wait, it's a dream. So it's
But she is really upset when she wakes up, so maybe she's going crazy. Probably not, but
potentially it's open-ended, obviously.
you know. Speaking of open ended, almost not because trivia break. What two-word phrase was coined by the New Yorker to describe Christian Dior's 1947 ladies fashion show slash clothing line?
Two word, huh?
Mm-hmm.
High fashion?
It's called the New Look.
Hmm.
And then next question, spoiler, I guess, multi-part question, but how many actual killers slash killers end up making the ghost face killings in the first Scream movie, and what actors slash actors play the revealed killer slash killers?
Well, the first one I think it's just two.
Uh huh.
Uh, Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard. I can't remember Matthew Lillard's character's name, but Skeet Ulrich's is Billy. Stop. Nicer two type Billy.
Yeah. I wouldn't ask for the character names, but you got it right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh,
Billy Loomis, I think.
yeah. So yeah, let's go back to the talking about stuff. So the overall rating for the structure, um, I don't know. It's got some decent beats for a thriller, but the characters were so loopy and I felt so disconnected from everything that I wouldn't recommend this movie as like a example of how to write a clever screenplay. But yeah, any thoughts about the general structure?
Not much of a well. Again, it's two movies. But I think it's meant to be when Bobby slash Michael Caine shows up the first time. It's supposed to feel like a slap in the face. We're going in a completely different direction than you thought you were going, type of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so it feels
So
very jarring.
so if you had to pick a movie to be fleshed out into the full movie, I would have preferred a movie about Kate, the sexually frustrated housewife, more than Liz solving a murder. Because I don't like solving a murder movies.
Yeah, a bit more original. I agree.
Fair
I
enough.
think this overall this movie, the style is more appealing than the actual substance. I agree that the Angie Dickinson story would be is a story that's not told often in cinema. There's a lot of whodunits trying to avoid a serial killer type of thing, like Scream, which is probably in the trivia break. Um,
Mm,
so it could have gone a lot of ways if it kept the Angie Dickinson story going about this is just a drama about trying to resolve sexual disease, and venereal disease, and maybe potentially breaking it to her heartbroken son, because syphilis can definitely kill you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You'd have to hear what the plot would have been, but
I
I
think she
also just
got
like,
more into anonymous type sex because of I don't know. She doesn't get the chance because of Bobby.
yeah, on a basic level, I at least would have liked to have seen her reckon whether she wants to be married or not. So that felt like where they were going, but whatever.
Yes, I
Uh,
had no idea. Yeah, because I didn't want. Of course, I didn't watch the trailer for the movie. I had no idea it was going to turn into a killer movie at all. Um,
yeah,
I mean, it's called Dress to Kill, but
yeah. So let's talk a little about the pacing of the movie. Uh, I thought it was okay, but if you're gonna do a thriller, the whole movie felt very slow to me. I guess because De Palma loves those like zoom close up things and stuff like that, and it just felt so self congratulatory on a filmmaking level that I was a little ahead of the plot sometimes.
yeah,
You have any thoughts about the pacing?
pacing didn't have anything feel slow. I wrote my notes multiple times, basically different versions of. Wait, what? What is happening?
Yeah, I guess it's true that it's a mix because the movie's very busy, but at the same time, it's just shot with like if you timed out the shots, it's longer than an average like movie of this type, I would think. But I don't know. Yeah. Let's talk a bit about the tone. This is less of a qualitative, is it good or bad, just like what it is. I thought of it as sort of an American who watched a Jalo movie and was really excited to make one and wasn't quite as tight on the Jalo artisticness.
Yeah, I actually thought there were a lot of cool shots in this movie, actually, from a directorial standpoint.
I mean, if you compare it to like Suspiria or something, it's not as tight as that.
No, it's not Jello. Like, I guess it has elements of Jello.
Killers and stuff,
It's not like I'm Bob Cosby having a bad day of reading his lines. Jello. Um,
You see, in the Italian movie, the stabbing, you don't know who's doing the stabbing.
the elements of witchcraft and the sexual tension. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's very similar to thrillers of the era. It's very similar to what we saw last week in terms of plot, in a way to Windows.
Yeah, when you said of the era, I thought of the Omen. It was, kind of like just like a scary anxiety or whatever. Let's move on. So let's talk about how original this movie is. I have mixed feelings because, like you say, visually very inventive. De Palma's good at that. Making a trans woman serial killer felt very conservative, orthodoxy, uncomfortable, dated, and the sexuality and the nudity in the movie was felt very modern, felt a little ahead of its time. So mixed bag. If he wasn't a trans woman, this movie would be perfectly original.
There's not that many movies about trans killers.
I think it's just a cliche in general that there's something psychologically unbalanced about a person who needs the trans surgery.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible because yes, it's a negative stereotype. I would say most people have that can't trust a trans person. Got something wrong with them. If you're not careful with them, they do something bad. And this is to the extreme where a biologically male person has an erection and becomes a serial killer trans woman. But I think it's I think a lot of the whodunit parts are not original, but it's sprinkled with a lot of original pieces. The mixture of things like the black guys with the boombox play a horrible song, by the way. It's like if Muzak and Rap had a baby and the coming out of the boombox in that scene. And yeah, the paperwork with the venereal diseases and stuff is I didn't see that coming. I don't know. I don't see how you could.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I did like, even if I didn't like the movie that much, how scene to scene, especially in the beginning, like you didn't really know that there was no cliched pattern to the behavior, even if it wasn't great. Like the sex scene at the art museum, it's very original. Yeah. Uh Talk briefly about marketability, which we define as how likely you tell your friend to watch this movie. This movie got really good reviews at the time. Still does get good reviews, I guess. So I can't be too negative on telling people not to watch it or whatever. Um, I thought it was kind of a boring, bloated De Palma movie. It's kind of how he rolls. And there is a big trigger warning with the ending. So it's like a mixed fine to watch. Not gonna run down the street telling people you gotta watch this movie.
yeah, it's definitely has its flaws. So you definitely couldn't recommend it in terms of being good. But it's not quite so bad. It's good.
Mm.
But I think for someone, if you have a friend or someone who's potentially interested in the art of cinema, I think there's enough here to make it kind of interesting. Um, it is kind of so bad it's good in ways because it's not what you'd expect. If you recommend it to someone, they ask you what's it about. I would say honestly, just it's kind of a thriller. But if I tell you anything, I'll kind of spoil things.
Yeah.
I mean, the surprises are what makes the movie that are the only thing that make it kind of redeemable. If you know what's gonna happen, the plot beats. I imagine it'd be a really hard watch.
Yeah, I felt a drop off even with after the reveal of the killer. Because I mean, well, they it's the worst scene in the movie Psycho is when the psychiatrist is like, there's men and there's women. That guy wants to be a woman. It's like 5 minutes long, and they have the guy do the exact same speech. I guess it's an homage, but it was just as boring. So anyway, yeah, it drops off at the end. That's all I was trying to say. Because yeah, like the suspense is gone. So they're kind of like just hanging out, kind of. Oh, all right. I think I squeeze in another trivia break. Uh, in Night of the Living Dead, in
Uh,
the first act of the film, what does Johnny teasingly say to his sister before being bit by a zombie?
God damn it! I'm going to get you, Martha, or something like that.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Barbara.
And then another fashion question. Giorgio Armani rose to fame in the 1980s in large part due to his costumery for what Richard Gere film?
Coin flip. The one more conventional, even though it won at least one Oscar. So I would say American Gigolo.
Yes. I think he designed a tux for that movie.
Seeing an officer and a gentleman, but I don't think he would design military uniforms.
Yeah. Decent thought though. Also, yeah, both won yeah, Oscar winnings. Yes. Let's talk about the awards nominations. This movie did get a Golden Globe nomination. Nancy Allen lost the Best New Star Actress award, an award that no longer exists.
Who won
Uh,
it?
Natasha Kinski in Roman Polanski's Tess. Are you familiar with Natasha Kinski or Tess?
I'm not sure I've ever seen a Natasha Kinski movie. She was actually Quentin Tarantino's first choice for Diane Kruger's part in Glorious Bastards.
Hmm.
But I know the name and I'm familiar that's based on Tess of the Dubervilles, correct?
I looked forward to it, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, yeah. Polanski was doing a lot of art cinema before he moved to America.
And for the whole rapey thing.
Yeah. And then it was a big year for that year of the Golden Globes because other losers were Kathy Moriarty in her Raging Bull, very tough part to play, the battered housewife, and then Dolly Parton in 9 to 5 as well. Deborah Winger for Urban Cowboy, but I'm not as impressed by Deborah Winger generally. But yeah,
Hmm.
and then I guess struck with those Razzie nominations. Brian De Palma was nominated for Worst Director, but lost to Robert Greenwald and Xanadu. I agree with him being nominated. I have mixed feelings. Xanadu was better, but De Palma's better at the like technical film school, how to make a movie stuff.
That's what I'm saying is there's too many good shots in the movie. Worst director. There is a worst screenplay category, correct?
Yeah, he didn't get it, that nomination. I agree. I thought the same
Um,
thing. And then get one more award in. Michael Caine was nominated for Worst Actor, uh,
fair.
and also a movie we haven't gotten to yet. Uh, same year, but he lost to Neil Diamond in The Jazz Singer. So yeah, I was a big fan of Michael Caine's performance. It was a little bit like stuffy psychiatrist and then zany crossdresser.
It's not
But
getting a lot to do. I think the studio or producers or whatever did Neil Diamond a bad break, but he's worse because he's kind of forced to do worse because he's forced to carry the whole
I
jazz singer
agree.
movie, and he's not built to do that.
Play it loud. Play it loud. Play it. And our next Razzie nominee, despite being nominated for a Golden Globe in the same year, Nancy Allen was nominated for, but did not win Worst Actress to a movie that has not been discussed. The Stinkers Bad Movie Awards did the exact same thing, nominated but won by a movie we haven't talked about yet. Honestly, I was because you kind of had me suspecting it was going to be RoboCop esque in its sort of staccato delivery. I thought she was fine. No one in this movie was really bad acting, so except Michael Caine maybe, but yeah,
Such a low bar. It's a little better than RoboCop, but Nancy Allen's she did have a pretty somewhat busy career, but uh, yeah, I can't get behind her acting like at all.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I mostly agree. All right, give your short review a score and where you'd rank it on your Razzie movies so far pyramid or whatever.
Pros are there are some gifted shots in this movie that really are creative. There's split screen in the first Michael Caine scene where he's counseling Angie Dickinson. There's a shot where they're both in frame talking to each other. Thought that was cool. Stopwatch is cool that Keith Gordon uses to track how fast patients can leave his office. So in that way, it's honestly the best of the Razzie movies they have. The negatives are the plot is all over the place, jarring for the sake of jarring practically. Things that don't make sense, like that guy in the museum not talking. But I give it big praise for being the first, one of the few, well, this and Xanadu are the like only couple, and to a certain extent Windows, but I think it's more successful Windows visually. So in that regard, I'll give it a 7. It was maybe too high for how well it was shot. Um, and because it was more fun than Windows, the Windows were functionally a better movie, I would say. I put it above Windows, but I put it just below Xanadu for my favorite Razzie movie.
Wow. Uh, so yeah, so a lot of critics, especially Roger Ebert, said things to the effect of, "This is a great movie," and hey, the plot doesn't work sometimes, but De Palma's a great artist, so you kind of go along with it. And I don't know, me personally, I was disconnected the whole time because I feel like even when you watch a studio arty movie that's not really about the plot, kind of like Windows, which I loved, my number one by the way. But anyway, you know, even if it's not the greatest plot, you sort of buy into it because there's a consistency to the direction. This movie fell all over the place, and I would not be so extreme as to say that just because this movie perpetuates a negative stereotype about trans people and that being a reason to commit murder or whatever, but it is emblematic to me in that how this movie sort of has slapdash thriller elements that didn't resonate with me. I would say this movie is okay, but I will not think about it much ever again for the rest of my life. Kind of felt the same way with the Black Dahlia, one of De Palma's more recent movies, horribly bombed, convoluted murder plot. I actually like Black Dahlia better, but anyway, this is middle of the road, bad movie. I would not make it the worst ever because it's not something like, what was that one? The George C. Scott one, The Formula, where it's just like bad filmmaking on top of bad plot. But it's bad. 4 out of 10. Windows is
Fair.
awesome. Yeah.
Can't really argue that per se, but just view it differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And then last trivia break. So in the James Bond film Goldeneye, Eric Trevelyan, or however you say that, may have been killed when he fell. But he is definitely killed when what falls on top of him.
Chandelier.
No, it's like a satellite array, satellite dish.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. I should have gotten that. Whatever.
Yeah. And I don't know Alexander McQueen took his own life. Prayers for him and his family. It's terrible. But anyway, in the last collection of his lifetime, Alexander McQueen designed high heels whose curved, scaled shape have caused them to be named after what animal?
I don't know. Curve and scales. Dolphin. I don't know.
Scales are the key one. Armadillo.
What have I got in there?
All right. Next movie's kind of a tricky spot. You'll see why in a second, but see if you can guess it based on these clues before we go. Clue number one. This Razzie nominee was co-written by novelist Diane Johnson with cinematography by John Alcott.
This is gonna be easy, I guess, because I don't know what any of the people are.
Just throw anything, yeah.
Bridge too far.
Next clue has a score by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind.
That's really reading out the most famous people in history of famousness.
I thought maybe recognize one of those, but whatever, yeah.
Death in the Moonlight.
Next clue co-stars Danny Lloyd.
I think it sounds familiar. Purple Rose of Cairo.
Also co-stars Scatman Crothers.
The Scatman. Uh, oh, Danny Lloyd is the kid. We knew it was coming. Now it's time for The Shining.
Yep. And while we will talk about The Shining to some degree for point of comparison, that movie is way too good and a borderline way too complicated a plot to discuss in our format anyway. So instead, we're gonna watch the 1997 TV miniseries Stephen King's The Shining, which is available for free on Tubi. It's a whopping 4.5 hours combined.
Oh, you have to watch this in a week.
Want to take more time, like another week or
We'll talk
harder?
offline, I guess.
All right. We'll have an update either way next week, but hopefully we'll talk about Stephen King's The Shining. What a clever title. next week on Twin Bill. Bye. Book me on your shows, or let's be best friends and hang out, maybe. I don't know.